is
Michelob Ultra Tuscan Orange Grapefruit. My God, America is imploding.
hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Fanzone debate. Tonight, we have a good one for you. We got Joe Farrelly making his return from earlier in the year where he debuted against Kirk Polkowski, now champion. He's going up against Jacob E. West, or as some call him around here. I don't really get the joke, but Papa West, something about him.
Kids.
Yeah, I get that he has kids, but anyway. So we got Joe and Jacob debating tonight. It's gonna be interesting. Cody, you're here. What you think?
Yeah, Jacob's very few in this community that actually have children and are not in college and stuff like that. There's a few of us, and some don't have kids yet, but I think that's where it started. This match is gonna be interesting. Joe is very good, but he ran up against his very first match against Kirk, which Kirk's the champion here, so not easy. And Jacob is probably going to come in and yell something at me because he has something against me for some reason, but he's a New York Yankees fan, so he already has problems. So they lost to Baltimore. Go ahead.
And then Lucas, you are here. Welcome. How are you feeling?
I mean, him being a New York Yankees fan, he's going to lose every point. So we'll try to hide our biases. I don't really know anything about either of these guys as a debater, so it's going to be interesting to see, how they structure their arguments, what they come up with, how they argue their cases, and just sit back and have a great time judging other people doing hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we will start. Both these guys are 0-1 coming in today, trying to get the win. We're going to start by talking to Papa West. Jacob, welcome. We haven't seen you since last season when you played, but you played well in that match. How are you feeling about taking on Joe tonight?
I mean, no one believes in me. I asked Little Sean if he believed in me. He called me a little piece of shit. I asked Captain America, my lovely fish right here, if he believes in me. He hasn't said a word. I asked my wife if she believes in me, and she moved away almost a year ago. So no one believes in me, but I'm not wearing the Yankee hat. I'm wearing the TCU hat today because fuck the Yankees. They've really upset me this year. So hopefully I get something out of that.
Okay. So next we'll bring in Joe.
Dr. Phil needs to come in.
Joe, welcome. Like we said, your debut was actually the first match of the year, playing Kirk in the tournament. You just kind of slid it, got the slide into the 16 seed because we needed to fill the spot. And now you're here to play Jacob. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I think last time it had been a while since I'd been on here and been on somewhere and had a debate, and it was about 3 a.m. It's only 2 a.m. now, so I've got that extra hour. So we'll see what happens. Always got on with Jacob. Really fun guy. Obviously, see him over in some of the other divisions, always hosting and stuff like that. So he's always a good laugh. So I'm really interested to see what he's going to come up with here. And I'd make sports references, but mine are all football based.
I see what you did there because you're from that place where
That
James
place
Bond does the things. So we're going to get into the match now. Here's how it's going to work. The competitors drafted 4 categories. Me and Cody then gave them questions based on said categories, and then they are going to debate those questions. So each player gets a minute opening, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing for each competitor. At the end of the question of the debate, Lucas, Cody, and I will write on our handy-dandy boards who we think won the point. And the first person to get 3 points is the winner of the match. If we get through all 4 questions and we are tied, we will go to a speed round bonus question. So any questions from the competitors before we get into it?
All good.
All righty, let's fight. right, we are going to get started with my favorite category, Middle Earth. This was drafted by Joe in what is easily one of my favorite questions we've had in Fanzone debate. Your question is, who would be the worst fandom character in all of fandom to replace Samwise Gamgee in the Lord of the Rings trilogy? I'm very excited about this. Joe, you drafted this, so you get to go first. You have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking, and I will come in and give you a 10-second warning when the time comes.
You know, Sam and Frodo went through a lot together, went through many different terrains, from the Shire to Mordor, forests, icy mountains, rocks, marshes, volcanic wastelands. Movies employee Randall once described the trilogy as 3 movies of walking. While that may be an oversimplification, he wasn't exactly wrong. Only on 2 occasions do we see the Fellowship cross water, Buckleberry Ferry and at Amon Hen. And that's just one reason that Dory would be the worst fandom character to replace Samwise Gamgee. There is nothing that she could offer that would be an improvement. In fact, the only reason she was of use to Marlon is because she could read. And putting aside the fact that she can't survive on land, she has no short-term memory. Frodo would have been dead before they reached Rivendell. Either she would have forgotten why they were hiding from the ringwraiths in the forest, or she would have forgotten that she was looking for Athelas in the woods. Frodo would have been dead if Dory was there, and that's why she is the worst replacement.
Time. All right, we'll move over to Jacob. You have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
So yes, Samwise Gamgee, the true hero of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And as far as someone to replace him, I mean, you want someone practical. You want someone who's going to be able to do stuff. So if we're looking at the worst, the least practical person there. Also, you know what? I would hate 3 hours of every second Frodo gets upset, because he does get upset at a lot during the films. I would hate to just hear, Frodo, take a chill pill. Jacob, what was that horrible accent? Were you trying to do an Arnold impersonation? Yes, I was trying to do an Arnold impersonation. There's a movie where he does nothing but puns, and it's very annoying in that movie. So take it into a 9-hour adventure. It'd be even more annoying. I am picking Mr. Freeze. Also impractical. He has to be cold. The only time they're in cold is on the Misty Mountains, which Frodo's like, we got to get out of here. Very impractical.
Time. All right. So, Mr. Freeze versus Dory. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
Look, if by some miracle Frodo had survived Fellowship, Dory would have forgotten why they were holding Gollum prisoner at the beginning of Two Towers and let him go, allowing him to kill Frodo. That all would have been eaten instantly as a nice, raw, wriggling, fresh fish. Mr. Freeze, look, I think there's plenty of gems and jewels in Middle-earth. I'm sure we could find some diamonds to power his suit. If we're giving Dory the power to at least survive on land, we can find some diamonds. He's a 2-time...
Well, you have to look for the diamonds, though. You have to look for the diamonds.
He's a 2-time Olympic decathlon winner. He does provide some kind of things here. Sam's job was to keep Frodo alive. You know, I can go on about all the things that Dory could have forgotten that would have just got Frodo dark. That would have killed Frodo. Walking down Cirith Ungol, seeing the bread. What's that bread there? And carried on going back down. Frodo gets killed by Shelob. Everything about Dory, the only good thing she provides to Mon is the fact that she can read.
So also, fun fact, you say Dory can only survive in water. That is the case, but also Lord of the Rings is a fantastical land with talking trees. I'm sure they can think of something of, oh, hey, Dory can actually swim in the air. Or you can take the real world, and whenever you buy a fish, how do you get that fish from the store to your house? They give you a nice plastic bag full of water, and the fish is right there. Dory could be in the bag.
Oh,
yes,
cool.
Mr. Freeze.
Takeaway delivery for Gollum. Perfect. Loves a nice raw, fresh, wriggling fish. Look, I don't think Mr. Freeze
Frodo has Sam tied up.
As long as you get some diamonds, you know, his suit keeps him cool. That ice gun would be very useful against orcs, wraiths, the Balrog, Uruk-hai, and whatever else the forces of darkness can muster. Crossing the river at Amon Hen. Easy. Running out of water in Mordor, problem solved. Defeating the Watcher in the water outside Moria, no worries. Shelob, taken care of.
I don't understand how you would say the loss of water that would be solved with Mr. Freeze. He shoots ice. You would have to melt that.
Bit of ice out of the gun. Oh, it's melted water.
Let Jacob.
He would be, yes, he would be walking around. Oh, I can't take this heat. And who knows where diamonds are, because they're never actually seen. You don't know if they'll be there. So he's probably going to be out of a suit for most of the time. He'll be very uncomfortable the entire time and making puns about ice, which when you're sweating your balls off in Mordor, chill pill. I wish this place was cold. It would not be good. With Dory, I really wish we saw a movie where Dory helped someone on an adventure. That's right. She does help Marlin get to her son. And the fact that she can only read, she is useful, and that helps. Plus, she's very motivational. Most known saying in that movie, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. When Frodo's like, I can't do this anymore. Sam was there of, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Dory will be right there attached to his side. Hey, Frodo, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Boom, takes that place. What is Mr. Freeze doing? Frodo, you son of a bitch.
Chill. Plus, yeah, you know what? I should chill. You know what, Victor? You're absolutely right. I should chill. But the thing is, it's not just the quest you've got to think of here. Sam is first and foremost a gardener. And if we learn anything from Batman and Robin, is that Freeze has a certain talent for taking care of plant life. Well, at least it was implied.
Oh, that was a sexual joke. He can't help plant life. That was all poison ivy. And then the other thing is the ring tries to corrupt everyone around Frodo. You saw it with Boromir. You saw it try to take out Aragorn. Dory, she doesn't remember her life. Super easy not to not be able to corrupt her. Whereas Mr. Freeze, oh yeah, his wife has McGregor syndrome. The entire time he's with her, you can just hear Sauron going, I have the cure. Take the ring, kill Frodo. Another bad reason of why Mr. Freeze would be good with Frodo.
Told you they wouldn't have made it to. If Dory was replacing Sam, they wouldn't have made it to Rivendell. They wouldn't have even made it to Rivendell. Those ring wraiths would have got the ring. Sauron has it back. They wouldn't have even had a chance to corrupt Dory because Dory's already got Frodo killed. The only thing, like, I agree, Dory might be a good replacement for Pippin, because then she would completely forget she wouldn't remember who Frodo is, wouldn't remember to reveal his identity in the middle of the prancing pony. And the ring wraiths don't never get attracted. Replace Pippin? Oh, fine. Dory can replace Pippin, but in no way should you replace Sam. Frodo would die before they reach Rivendell.
Time. All right, Jacob, you'll be closing first on this one. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
So as far as Dory giving away their where they are with the ring race, we don't know that. She's in a bag. You might not be able to hear her talk during that moment. And then also with finding the FLS, plain and simple, get Merry or Pippin to do it. That's an easy job. They can do that. So it's simple to get past, get into Rivendell, and then go on to Mordor. And again, she's very motivational. Whereas Mr. Freeze, he does have a cool suit that is powered by diamonds. I've never seen diamonds in in Middle Earth. Are you gonna take time out of your journey to destroy the one ring while you're running away from orcs and goblins to actually mine for diamonds? No. And saying other gems would work, why didn't Mr. Freeze buy a bunch of rubies or even cheaper diamonds, or not cheaper diamonds, but cheaper jewels in Batman and Robin to power his suit? No, he went with diamonds. And again, just hearing, Frodo, chill, is so much worse than just keep swimming.
Time. All right. Joe, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
Yeah, hearing just keep swimming in a movie that has zero swimming. Get somebody else to do Sam's job. That's literally what you just said. Get somebody else to do Sam's job. That's why Dory's a worse replacement, because you have to get everybody else to do what Sam would have done. With Dory there, she's so forgetful, she would have forgotten everything to do. Frodo would have been dead. This is the point. Freeze, all right, you have to get some diamonds. If we're accepting that Dory's going to survive on land, we're going to accept that Mr. Freeze can get some diamonds. But the fact of the matter is, he's a 2-time Olympic decathlon winner. He has numerous skills. He's a scientist. He's a genius. He has this weapon that is going to be phenomenal use against many different things. He's going to speed Frodo up. Took him ages to cross that river. Took him ages to cross on the Buckleberry Ferry. He can just freeze the water and they've walked across. Saves a lot of time. May not get held up by Faramir. May not get held up by all these different things that held them up. Through the dead marshes, frozen, straight across. All these different things that Mr. Freeze could have benefited Frodo by saving them time in getting the ring. Dory would have forgot. The ring race would have found the ring. Goes back to Sauron. They're dead.
All right. We all good? Okay, this was weird. This took a lot of turns that I wasn't expecting. That being said, I'm going with Joe. I think that Joe's closing was really strong when he said, basically, Jacob spent most of his closing saying, these are the things that you said would be an issue with Dory. Just have Merry or Pippin do it. And Joe was like, that's what we're doing right now, is finding the replacement. So I thought that was a really good slam. So I give it to Joe. Cody, where are you going?
Not surprised we disagree. I went with Jacob. The reason why I went with Jacob is because I think he raised a lot of good points on the matter, especially figuring in Saruman into the thing about convincing him I have the cure for your wife, and that lead off where it would go, and kind of portrayed him as this big brute against Frodo. So that helped sell it for me, but it was close. Right. It was closer than I thought this fight would be.
Yeah. Lucas, you get to decide it.
So I'm actually I'm going to go with Joe as well, and I feel very similar to Tim. I think that closing to me was probably the strongest moment of the entire debate, and really just kind of sealed it in. I also think Jacob got a little bit too caught up doing the Mr. Freeze voice, and every time he did the Mr. Freeze voice, I was like, you just made a joke, and you could have made a point. And I feel like over time, Joe just kept adding up points, and Jacob was kind of making a joke. So it really, over time, he started to build a lead, and then I think that the closing argument was when Joe really took it.
All right. So Joe wins the first point. We do move on to question number 2, which is coming from the category of sports, which was drafted by Jacob. And the question is, what is the funniest scene in a sports comedy? Funniest scene in a sports comedy. So Jacob, you drafted this, so you get to go first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
The funniest scene in a sports comedy is simple. It is from Dodgeball, A True Underdog Story. The scene is Troop 417, the Girl Scouts, taking on Average Joe's Gym in a dodgeball match to qualify for the big tournament in Vegas. The entire scene itself is about 3 minutes, 30 seconds. It's a great blend of both slapstick comedy and then just comedic moments. You also have a great song going in the background, Take It Off by the Donnas, which is very underused, but it's great because it starts off with the Average Joes just getting ready to play. We have no idea what we're doing. We kind of trained. Who are we playing? Gordon takes his book out. Troop 417, Steve the Pirate. Oh, a bunch of Boy Scouts. And then Vince Vaughn looks up. Peter, he looks up and not exactly. And then you have the nice guitar riff to start off the song as these badass Girl Scouts walk in and wreck shop against Average Joe's Gym.
All right. We will now bring in Joe. Joe, you now have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
We all know comedy is subjective, and what one person finds funny, another person could sit stone-faced, arms folded, and occasionally glancing at their watch. So in order to decide what's the funniest, I think you need to have a general sort of consensus around the matter. And in this case, the internet, being a hive of people who need to have their opinions heard, is actually quite useful. Lists upon lists of best movies, best scenes, best performances. So for this reason, I've pitched the Grace scene in Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Not only is it a really funny scene that has, great comedians firing on all cylinders, it consistently ranks high in the lists of funniest scenes. The big laugh in this scene, it comes from seeing the feast that Carly has prepared for her family, and it's all, Domino's and KFC and Wonder Bread and Dr. Pepper. We also learn that Ricky is partial to baby Jesus. That's who he prays to. Cal likes to think of baby Jesus in a tuxedo t-shirt with giant eagle wings. It gives us the family dynamic. It's a really funny scene.
Fuck. Sorry. Ooh, showing my cards. Okay. I actually love both these movies. Guys, 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
So your scene, the biggest issue I have is it goes on too long. You know, hey, it's funny. My Jesus is the baby Jesus. Then you have Cal. Oh, mine's the tuxedo shirt. Walker, he's the ninja. Texas Ranger does something else. And then Chip's like, he was a man. He was 40. And then he goes back to the baby Jesus. It goes on too long. Plus, the whole scene is bad product placement. Right before you have Ricky Bobby doing all those commercials for all these companies. So, okay, product placement, whatever. And then you're just getting beaten over the head with even more product placement.
In a movie about
scene.
NASCAR, yeah.
But it beats you over the head. With my scene, this is the first time dodgeball is used. Throughout the entire movie, everyone's getting hit in the face or in the nuts. In this scene, actually, only one person gets hit in the face. Everyone else gets hit either in the shoulder, the back. Plus, you have memorable lines. At the start, Gordon looks at his mail order wife, and she gives the loser sign.
Look,
I want to L for love.
Memorable lines. All the memorable lines in Dodgeball come from Patches O'Houlihan, and he's not in this scene. You know, you're talking about comedy. Comedy is usually memorable. It's what you quote to your friends the next day after you've seen the movie. You don't quote anything from this scene. You quote Patches O'Houlihan. You quote, you know, the Lance Armstrong stuff at the end. But the thing is, I appreciate your issues with the scene, but that's why I've gone with the grey scenes, because it consistently ranks in the funniest scenes. You know, comedy is subjective. You might not find it funny, but the thing is, the consensus puts it up there with the funniest. With Dodgeball, it is, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. That's what ranks as the funniest scene from Dodgeball. So you haven't even picked the funniest scene from your movie. It might be the funniest scene to you, but I think the funniest scene is something that is appreciated overall by the general audience.
No, good comedy is it knows when to stop. You know, you dodge a wrench, you dodge a ball. Oh, kind of funny. Then he gets hit in the face with a wrench. Oh, and then they're dodging cars. It gets over, and that's the entire movie. It really kind of gets over funny. That's what's great about this scene. It's all of the movie Dodgeball crammed into one scene, so it never goes on too long. Whereas Ricky Bobby, hey, we just had product placement. Guess what? We're going to have 3 more minutes of product placement and beating you over the head of Jesus was a baby, he was a teenager, he was a man, and you can picture him however you want to. Oh, and by the way, he was a baby.
But the problem is, obviously, you look at Dodgeball, the whole, you know, there's lots of different Dodgeball matches in that, and I think the different Dodgeball matches, they sort of blend together. Each has their own sort of funny moments, and they sort of unbalance each other out, which is they sort of cancel each other out, which is why I think the Patches O'Houlihan stuff sticks more than in that. You know, the grey scene itself, you know, just on surface value, the scene is funny. You know, you've got the dialogue, the improvisation. You can see John C. Reilly trying his hardest not to laugh. Even he is finding it funny. You know, the deliveries are great. You have the underlying joke supporting that. The fact that Walker and Texas Ranger are being encouraged to disrespect their elder while Ricky Bobby is praying. You know, this is a complete violation. And the stuff about product placement, again, it is the underlying. It's a movie about NASCAR. The product placement is there. It is referencing NASCAR itself. You know, the arguments about which Jesus is the right Jesus, you know, and the different Jesuses they imagine. John C. Reilly jumping in with his improvisational snaps at Chip. This is all the sort of stuff that makes this scene funny. But again, comedy is subjective, and you have to look at the consensus. You know, you go to YouTube and type in funniest scenes from our respective movies. You know, the grey scene in Talladega Nights is the first scene that comes up. You know, while the Girl Scout scene is further down the list, and it's all about if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. If you can dodge traffic, you can dodge a ball. These are funnier scenes in your movie.
I mean, again, comedy is subjective. You might think they're funnier. I think this one's funnier because it doesn't go over the top. Plus, you have memorable quotes from the scene. Again, the L for love. One thing that makes this scene better is you actually see the dodgeball taking place, and it's not too over the top. You're not skipping through parts. You see the entire match, and it's a bunch of middle-aged guys getting beaten up by 12-year-old girls. What makes it hilarious, too, every single guy except for Peter gets eliminated like that. Peter has the ball. He throws and hits one of the girls, and she hits the ground. Oh, you hit a girl. How could you do that? And then just the comedy of that. And then he's like, oh, crap, what did I do? And he gets hit. And you never see it. You never see in any of the other dodgeball matches, but this one, he's like,
that's
okay,
because
I'm
the other dodgeball matches are funnier. The other dodgeball matches are funnier. They have, you know, when people reference the dodgeball matches, they're referencing pretty much one thing, and it's Jason Bateman's cotton, and he is not in this match, and he is the funniest part of those dodgeball matches, and he's not.
Neither is
even in
Patches
this
O'Houlihan. You just said Patches O'Houlihan's the only memorable person, and then you brought Jason Bateman.
I said he's the funniest.
Time. All right, Joe, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
As I've said plenty of times during this argument, I think comedy is subjective, and I think you have to look at the general consensus around what is the funniest scene. What's funny to one person isn't necessarily funny to another person, and that's why this debate could go on and on and round forever. But I think when it comes to dodgeball, if you look at general consensus, even my own personal opinion is that Patches O'Houlihan is the funnier part of dodgeball, and also the funnier part of the matches themselves is Jason Bateman's cotton, and he is not in either of these matches. The Grace scene itself, it has the surface humor, it has the underlying humor. I think it works on lots of different levels. You've got the improvisation of two incredible comedians. Farrell's classic deadpan delivery is on top form here. You've just got the differences. Even the kids, Walker and Texas Ranger, have memorable lines from this. They're firing on all cylinders. The improvisation, the dialogue itself, the delivery, everything about the scene is incredibly hilarious and works to a perfect level. Whereas the dodgeball scene, it's not even the funniest scene in the movie. There are plenty of other scenes that could top it.
All right, Jacob, you now have 1 minute to close your argument.
So again, the reason I picked this scene in dodgeball is because it's not beating over your head. Every single elimination in the tournament, you're either getting hit in the face or hit in the crotch. You're getting beat over the head. And that's exactly what Joe's scene in Talladega Nights is. Oh, hey, we made a funny joke about slaving over dinner, but it's actually she just bought a crap ton of food. So it's product placement. After getting beat over the head with product placement 30 seconds before that. The baby Jesus takes way too long. It should have just been, I think Jesus is the baby. And, well, I picture Jesus as this. I picture Jesus as this. Okay, whatever. And no, then he goes back into, dear Lord, sweet baby Jesus, 6 pounds, and just keeps going on. Okay, I'm a horse. I'm dead now. You can quit beating me. Whereas this scene, it knows when to stop. And then again, Peter leaving the stage after getting eliminated, throws off, you're adopted. Your parents don't even love you. Telling that to an 8-year-old kid, it's hilarious.
Time. All right. Bring in the judges. I have a feeling that I'm just all over the place tonight. We're going to find out. This is going to be weird. Lucas, you get to start because you decided.
Yeah. Interesting debate. It's weird because you could judge this as very close, or you could judge this as very far apart. And I think that I went back and forth between those two things, and I ended up going Joe. I'm going to be honest. The argument that the Talladega Nights scene is beating them over the head, I never found particularly effective, and going back to it over and over again just didn't work for me. I just didn't think it was an argument that carried a lot of weight. I don't think he ever explained it particularly well. And I think he also got so focused in refusing that argument that you never really explained why your scene was that funny until the final end minutes. And I think Joe's argument that scene is, their 6th most memorable scene of the movie, I think, carried a lot of weight. I would go Joe.
All right. I actually went Jacob this time. I think that Jacob's closing was pretty strong. I also his argument about the jokes in the Grace scene just kind of going on and on and on, and it kind of loses its steam, and it also beats you over the head just over and over again with the same thing. That works for me. Also, Joe's main crux of his argument being getting this off of lists, and if you search it on YouTube, you'll find it and everything, didn't really work for me, because by that standard, we could say, what's the best James Cameron movie? And I could search and just my whole argument could be, the internet said it was aliens. So that didn't work for me. So I went with Jacob, but I don't know. I could have gone either way, but ultimately I went with Jacob. So Cody, you get to decide this one.
My favorite thing ever in a debate about comedy is hearing comedy is subjective 14,000 times. Fucker, just tell me what's funny and then let me laugh. By the way, both of these scenes, hilarious. Nothing feels like beating over the head. If I wanted to girl, I would name her Dr. Quinn and Medicine Woman. I went with Joe because I think overall, at the end of the day, I think like there was this. It was just like semantics. Like that's not funny and this is not funny. Well, I know that's the debate, but like the breakdown of the scene and everything didn't come till late. And you did a really good job of trying to tackle Joe at the very end, but I felt like Joe, that just didn't work for me as well. So overall, I thought Joe took it.
All right. So Joe gets point number 2. We're going to move on to question number 3, which was drafted by Mr. Farrelly. The question is, in actors and actresses, what is the best Sam Rockwell performance? So this, like I said, was drafted by Joe. He's going to go first. Joe, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
In my opinion, I think Sam Rockwell is one of the finest actors working today. I think a lot of his roles are so memorable, just down from everything he's done. I think he brings a sense of joy and passion to every role he's played. He may be the best part of Iron Man 2. And has shown he can lead a movie in which he's the only actor. He plays a great villain, a great sidekick, a great father figure, a death-fearing crewman number 6. I think he's incredible, and incredibly, the Academy has only recognized his talents twice, nominating him for Vice and dubbing him the best supporting actor for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And in this case, I kind of got to agree with the Academy here. I think not only was he the best that year, I think 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri was his best ever. I think throughout his career, he's been excellent at playing angry Southern men who aren't as smart as they think they are. And I think 3 Billboards is the perfection of this.
Time. All right. Jacob, you now have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
Sam Rockwell is easily the best part of Iron Man 2 because that is a crappy movie. However, that's not what I picked. The movie that I picked is Jojo Rabbit, where he plays Captain Klenzendorf. The man plays a Nazi, which should be cancel culture immediately. Somehow is not, because he does such a great job of it. He's like the 5th or 6th billed actor because he's hardly in the movie. Yet the entire time you see him in the movie, he has a full-on thread. He starts off, he's a captain being forced to watch kids. He's annoyed. He wishes he could live his glory days. And then he builds that relationship with Jojo, kind of being like a father figure to him. You see where Jojo and Elsa are at their house. The Gestapo walk in. Sam Rockwell jumps in and actually saves them because of that relationship. And then also at the very end, he saves Jojo from dying when the Allies take over from Germany. He makes you like a Nazi, which shouldn't happen.
Time. All right, Jojo Rabbit versus 3 Billboards. 5 minutes of free form when one of you starts talking.
Look, I think both these performances make us like a character who is a horrible, bigoted individual. But I think the difference is Jojo Rabbit, Captain Klenzendorf feels more like a caricature of a Nazi than an actual Nazi, whereas the character Jason Dixon, who he plays in 3 Billboards, is an outright bigot. It is shown throughout the scenes, and the fact that we still like him after that, I think, is a much, much harder thing to do, which is why I think it's the better performance. I think you just see it, that whole performance balancing the bigotry with the desire to better himself, then the cruel twist of karma. I think Captain Klenzendorf is a great character, but the eccentric character in an already crazy world is another one of Rockwell's specialities, like he did in Galaxy Quest. But I think the performance in 3 Billboards is a lot more grounded, and it's a lot darker. And I think to get us to still like that character through his performance, I think it's a much harder job to do.
But do we ever actually like that character? The only time you root for him is when he's in the bar with the guy we think raped the main character's daughter, which is already an even more horrible person than a racist. So of course you're gonna root for him afterwards.
It's liking the performance rather than liking the characters. It's about being in awe of this performance that he does. You know, his performance in JoJo is good, and that final turn at the end, it's a great moment, but it does kind of feel totally out of left field compared to what he's doing for the rest of the movie. You know, there's nothing in that performance to make you think that saving JoJo is something that Captain Klenzendorf would do. He spends the whole rest of the movie.
He saves Elsa like 30 minutes earlier. He saves Elsa 30 minutes earlier. I don't see how you don't see that being something
he spends the
does.
rest of the movie sending kids out to die. You know, the performance in JoJo, you know, it seems like a sort of a mesh of his performance in Galaxy Quest 3, Billboards, and The Way Back, which are all amazing performances. But I think meshing them together the way he does, it dilutes that performance slightly, and I think it results in more of a homage than something new.
I mean, you're a bad guy turned into a good guy. That's exactly what both of these performances are, which has been around since the time of movies. Basically, the biggest difference between our performances, you have a racist, whether it's a Southern racist or a Nazi, someone that you're not supposed to like, have a complete 180 turn. They both happen in both movies. The difference is your character's in a majority of your movie, whereas mine, his performance is so good, he's able to do that in not even a third of the film. And he's memorable being in a third of the film when you have amazing performances around him. He's able to steal every scene he's in and make himself memorable.
Yeah, I think, look, Rockwell often plays nice guys, but I think he's more effective here as this racist, violent cop, and he's more effective than...
When does he play nice guys? Iron Man 2, 3 Billboards.
I think The Way Back. I think
Jojo Rabbit. He plays bad guys all the time.
I think you know, The Way Back. He's definitely a nice guy in that. But the thing is, I think in this movie he looks older. He looks, you know, pudgier. You know, he drinks himself to sleep every night. Doesn't really trust that life has much in store for him. I think Rockwell has a big arc in 3 Billboards, and he takes no full steps, which is his usual thing. But I think in this, I think the darkness that he brings to that role, and the fact that you still like this performance, and you may not like the character, but you love this performance. You know, the Academy is not always right, but I think in this case, they were right. I think, like I said, his performance in JoJo is more of a caricature than it is of a character that you can actually believe, which is Taika Waititi's style, granted. But I think the difference is, I think in 3 Billboards, he is given much more space to actually develop this character more than just a caricature, which is what he does in Jojo Rabbit.
But I mean, if you look at Jojo Rabbit, it's pretty much a character of the entire of all of Nazism. I mean, Taika Waititi plays Hitler himself, who is just a figment of imagination. That's exactly what the movie's supposed to be, and he does a fantastic job of doing it. Again, most people don't want to play Nazis, and he took it and ran with it and did a fantastic job of it.
Granted, but I think what McDonough does with 3 Billboards, obviously, you know, he set up this story, but I think what Sam Rockwell brings to that, you know, for what is essentially, you know, he's not the main police officer in this film, you know, that's taken by Woody Harrelson. I think what he brings to that is an underlying thing of, yes, this is Woody Harrelson's subordinate, but also there is a lot more, and it's based around the script, but what he brings to that around the stuff with his mother and everything like that, everything else that's going on in this movie, I think he layers every single part of this character, from the forward-facing police officer that is what the audience knows, to down to what's going on behind the scenes for this character. I think it's all explained, which is not what he's given the ability to do in Jojo Rabbit.
Time. All right, Jacob. No. Yes. This is, you get to go.
Sure.
Yes, you do. All right. 1 minute to close when you start talking.
Okay, just because he has the Oedipus syndrome and is in love with his mother, which is randomly thrown in that he still lives with his mom, is super weird. Again, you never really like this character. You hate him throughout the entire film. You actually root for the main lady when she's throwing Molotovs at the police department, and he's just in the office listening to music. You're rooting for him to die, pretty much. Yes, he manages to get that guy's DNA when it's the guy who supposedly raped the main girl's daughter, but you're never really cheering for him. You're cheering for the other person to fail. Whereas with Jojo Rabbit, Captain Klenzendorf, you're not supposed to like this character. You're not supposed to like any of those characters. And he's able to make it his own. In a third of the film, he is memorable. Every scene he's in, you remember him because that's how great his performance is. Whereas with 3 Billboards, I just watched this today and there's so much I forgot because it's not great.
All right. Joe, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
You know what? You're supposed to be rooting for Mildred in 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. And the fact that Sam Rockwell's performance allows that to grow even more, I think that's a very impressive thing. I think regardless of McDonough's dramatic cynicism, I think the performance accepts that people can change, despite the fact that this character, has been so bigoted throughout that. I think, it starts with him defending Sheriff Willoughby's name, jealously reacting to waging a personal war against Mildred, but somehow Rockwell layers Jason Dixon, allowing him to grow as a human being throughout the course of the film. I think Jojo Rabbit, he's limited by being a caricature, and I think he's limited, he's narrowed by the script. I think that the heroic moment at the end, which is what makes you root for him, I think it's totally out of left field, and I think it just dampens that performance. It feels like a caricature. It feels like a mesh of other characters and other roles he's done before, which dilutes that performance. But I think Three Billboards was something truly unique for Sam Rockwell. I think it's something that he elevated, something that he layered, something that he really went in depth on, and I think that's why it is his best performance.
All righty then. Okay. We all good? All right, Cody, you get to start this one.
Yeah, I felt like these are just some weird fights tonight. Like, they're not, like, I feel like there's correct answers and stuff all around, but it's just not where it's working. I went with Joe. I just think he painted that portrayal of that character, and why that is the best performance compared to everything else. Yeah. I just feel, and I think Joe, what he's done all night is his closing is super strong, and I think another strong showing tonight.
Lucas,
I think there's a couple really big moments here. One was when Joe took all the components of the Jojo Rabbit character and basically tied it into previous Sam Rockwell performances. The moment where he pointed out what he was able to refute the Sam Rockwell always plays villain by mentioning like 5 different characters. And then the closing, I think, is also really strong. I don't understand the Oedipus complex shot at Rockwell. That to me was very confusing and actively hurt the argument that was being made in that moment. I'm also going Joe.
Okay. So that means Joe gets the point. I also did go Joe. Basically for most of the reasons you guys said. I thought Jacob did a good job in this fight. There were a couple things that he said about how, there's a character that has like a third of the screen time of the other characters, and yet he is like one of the big standouts of the movie, and that takes a good performance to do it. But Joe just, I think, piled on why the performance in Three Billboards was so much better. So I went with Joe, which means your winner by way of knockout is Joe Farrelly. We are going to start by actually talking to Jacob. Jacob, you had a good performance tonight. The first 2 were split decisions. This one just kind of came down to Joe there. But you played well. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I do really enjoy debating because you never know how it's going to go. Whenever you're planning, you're basing off of this stuff. And then as soon as you start, everything just hits the fan immediately. That last question was really the one I wasn't confident in. I knew I was taking a big shot by going with Jojo Rabbit because he's not the main character. He's not even supporting, really. But I really like that performance, and I feel that movie needs to be talked about more.
It's fair. So this does mean that you're not going to play again this season, but next season. Is there someone that you want to play and debate?
I mean, I hate this 0-2 record, so I feel like an easy win, like Chris Diaz or Hunter, if he partakes in this. I'd hate to be a part of it, but at the same time, you got to get that loss. You got to get a win on that record.
Woof. So we'll see you next season sometime, Jacob. I'm excited because you did play well tonight, so we'll see you next season sometime. Joe, welcome. First win on the record. You are now 1-1. We do know what your next match is going to be, but before we get to that, how are you feeling about your performance tonight?
Yeah, it feels a lot better. I think I prepped a little bit better this time. I think, like I said last time, I hadn't done this for a while, and I remember to get back in, go into the opponent's shoes. What are they going to hit me with? I love dodgeball. I love Jojo Rabbit, especially Sam Rockwell and Jojo Rabbit. It's really hard sometimes to put down things that you do enjoy. A little bit disappointed we didn't get to the 4th question because I actually had probably the most fun writing my argument for that one. But it's the way it goes sometimes. Jacob was always good fun. He always makes me laugh whenever I see him debate or hosting. So this was good fun.
Awesome. We do have your next match. You are going to be going up against Cameron Holtzman in your next match. So, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, it's good. I think maybe once for Fandom, I think I've played against Cameron, maybe in teams. But yeah, always good fun. Do enjoy Cameron. Very strong when it comes to the animated stuff. So I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. So we will have that match very soon. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get final thoughts, starting with Lucas. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Joe, when he said it correctly, when he said he prepped really well, that was one thing I think that really came out in the arguments, is that he consistently had multi tiers to his arguments. He could refute kind of like the more obvious shots taken at anything he was making, and he was just kind of good about like staying on message and kind of keeping pounding the same argument. Jacob had some good ideas, but at times got sidetracked into like side avenues or saying something he thought was really funny. And like, I think if he structures himself a little better, he'll do a lot more successfully at the second time out.
Yeah. And Cody, what about you?
Joe's kind of a hard person to debate because he comes off sounding like he's nice, but he's actually like just dropping just fucking dick shots at you the entire time. Like, oh, that's a great choice, but you're kind of a shitty person for picking that. It was kind of nice. No wonder we got in a war with him, in the 1700s. Overall, just a great showing. Again, I felt like Joe got a bad rap the very first time he played. Just because he had to play Kirk, and Kirk was pissed because he lost his last match. So overall, I think Joe versus Cam is going to be a very interesting because Joe definitely preps and so does Cam. And I'm going to see the counter punches where who adapts better to the counter punch, because that's going to be the most interesting thing.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you for checking out this episode of Multiplex Fan Zone Debate. We are going to be back actually in 2 weeks with another match. We have Joe Harrison playing Ryan O'Regan. Then 2 weeks later, we got the aforementioned Joe Farrelly versus Cameron Holtzman. So it's going to be really exciting. We'll see you real soon with those matches. Until next time, bye.
That's my bad. I was sending a tweet.